of prepping?
Get some idea of the trade stuff.
Yes.
So from the initial, I'm sure it's quite expensive from the specialized process during the day. Shading your house, so if you plant plants in the right place around your house, you can actually keep your house cooler and warmer. And you guys know about this principle, yes? You invite organisms to your house now. Lasting, but still there's the process, and there's still going to be pollution.
Background of this space we're in, and maybe a little bit of myself. Yeah, the Green Camp Gallery project is a program or a project, community development project, and we are here to encourage our society on how we look at our environments, especially urban environments. This is a 10-year plan where we intention is to build a replicable model that can be camps somewhere else in other societies also. We are on our second year, and it looks like madness, but there's some plan in this madness and a growth plan. Our philosophy is to rebuild using recycled material and then letting time define the result, which means that the focus of this project is not on us or the product, the end, it's the process. And then within this process we intend to rehabilitate our environment physically, but also ourselves as a community or as a society. I believe South Africa is in serious trouble due to the fact that we are very negligent as people. We're trying to shove everything under the carpet and depend on consumerism as solution to our future, and that doesn't look like any solution at all. And so we organic urban farm and design hub. The design part of it is the gallery part of it, because using art group people together somehow. That's why we chose that language, because you can touch people from different background through art. But through art, what we're encouraging is the soul. Let's look at nature again, even within the urban space, because people will be saying, "Oh, we're hungry, we don't have food, or there's no jobs and stuff like that." And what we're saying then is that, what are you doing about that? Are you waiting for Zuma's donation, or are you gonna be a donation? What we're encouraging here now is us becoming a doing nation together by taking broken bricks and building with them. And then people will be like, "Oh, the mountain is too far." We say, like, if you want to go to the mountain and the mountain is too far, you bring it to you. So this is why this is urban farm. We bring the farm inside urban space, and then encouraging our community fair, of course. You have no excuse anymore, and so that's what Green Camp is in a nutshell. Yes. Any questions? I'll answer, but I talk a lot about this. It sounds like it changes every time I describe what this. It changes all the time. So I'll be sitting with an individual in the nearest future, and I'll be telling about Green Camp. There's going to be more coming out of me also, explaining what this is. But what is most important is the process that I like to engage with people. What is the process and what is the philosophy? How do we come about? How long did it take to come up with something like that?
Can you give us a little bit more idea of the community you're talking about? And the ways that they're engaging with you?
Yeah, the community is, it starts by me. My background, we don't have to talk very much. We all know where we're coming from, but my background has left me a bit confused and angry and a little bit depressed. And so the community, it's very hard for me to point fingers when I'm talking about the community. Who am I talking about? But that's why I'm going to put myself as the guinea pig in the lab. That I'm the community, and I'm the person who always wanted a place that I could be able to tell my story and be given a chance to tell my story. This place here is geographically placed perfectly. It's in between everyone. So we didn't choose who needs what. We just placed ourselves in the middle. And the community is all of us. And then the people who are coming here is from children from kindergarten, local families that are here. They come in here, they find a place to play, and we're developing labor programs. We have an old age home next door. The guys who are always walking here, coming to buy fruits and from here maybe smokes. I interact with them, and the space is open to them, and we have a program already, that exchange happening. I haven't been working for 4 years because I'm working on this. So there's many days where I was hungry, not knowing where I'm going to get the meal. And then the old ladies will come and bring me food. The neighbors here, especially the ladies, give imbogodo, we call them imbogodo. It's like and of course also UKZN is here, DUT is here, and those guys, we have more than 100 students coming here a month, I would say. So that is the community. The parents.
Do they? What do they come?
You know, from the community. So it's this whole image of death and then life coming out of
Yes.
You know what I mean? From this place.
Yes.
And then the parallel with permaculture is that, you know, we can use dead matter or, you know, organic dead leaves and to make compost and to make new life and to grow things. So this is the parallel I see. So I think it's quite interesting that we're having it in this space.
Yeah.
It's about sustainability and creativity in this space. To show what's possible.
Yes, it's very possible because our community and our country is lacking that. Something
absolutely.
that where's the hope? Because like the people who are leading us, they have all of these programs that does not make sense at all, and there's no transparent, feasible plan on how we're gonna. In 10 years, what are we doing in 10 years? The society, our governments are not showing us that at all. So if we come together as a community and raise that hope ourselves, and then teach them, this is what we want.
Show them what we want.
This is what we want, yes. Because they completely out of their minds. Sorry.
But you know, crucially, in our leading light is the different paradigm. And, you know, the paradigm we're in at the moment, and it started with the kind of election promises, you know, we will give you a house, we'll give you this, we'll give you this. And instead of we're going to enable you to realize your fullest potential and creativity.
Yes.
And I think if you're able, through this project, to touch on others, so similarly you get that energy going about, you know, surviving creatively in a tough terrain. Well, that is what we need.
That's what we need.
And I think South Africans have it, but we've got so depressed by materialism and climbing up the ladder. And
We're a beautiful nation of like very loving and trusting people. So if you tell us something as a nation, we'll listen to you. And if you say, okay, sure, our government said open your arms, I'm going to give you something. And we did it. And then still empty. So
it's impossible.
yes, we have a very beautiful and vibrant, I love our country. Yes.
But the present is actually also, but it's kind of borrowed time because it's fossil fuels that were formed over millions of years. So it's
Stored sun energy.
absolutely stored sun energy. So permaculture is about copying natural ecosystems like the one we saw in Pigeon Valley. So that was a really good start to see how does nature build soil and how does it use sunlight and the rainwater. And about supplying our needs in a way that's actually beneficial for the environment. So it may come as a bit of a shock because we are so destructive at the moment in the way we live, burning fossil fuels, causing climate change and species extinction. So moving from the present, the future could either be we just extract everything and it's a kind of a suicidal pathway with climate change and destruction of species, or we can move away from this path of extraction, of just extracting everything, and actually concentrate on regeneration. So regenerating soils, improving the environment at the same time as meeting our needs. So, and how does that work? It's through actually, we know now how to increase soil fertility. So we can stay in one place and actually increase the fertility where we are, instead of in the past where we just used everything up and moved on. And we can actually increase the biodiversity where we are, so we can become a positive element in the environment.
To have what's called good tilth or a loamy soil, and that's usually a mixture of 20% clay and 40% sand and 40% silt. That it just all falls apart. So ideally you want it to be able to fall together in little clumps, and those little clumps are created by the organisms in the soil. So there's algae in the soil, there's microbes and bacteria and fungi in the soil that all give off substances that make a glue. I'm going to show you, for example, and it's not necessarily a good example, but this I took from the garden here, from where Green comes growing veggies. So you can see it's nice dark soil that is quite crumbly. So one of the things that you do to test whether the soil is good is that you put a little clump together, you squeeze it, and ideally when you tap it, it should fall apart in just like 3 bits. Not too much, but not too hard. So this one's a little bit too crumbly, and it's holding together reasonably well and it's quite dark. And that's what draws pests, because there's some kind of language between plants and pests that when the plants have too much nitrogen in their leaves, they send out signals that tell pests, come eat us. So that release of too much nitrogen is what causes a lot of problems. So what we're trying to do in building soil is getting nutrients that plants need. For me, building soil is probably the most important act of creation. We're all creative on this. 90% creative people here. So for me, that's like one of the key things, because this little layer of topsoil that's usually about 20 centimeters there, is on average around the world, is really what feeds the whole planet. Because it's that soil that enables the plants to grow, that takes the nutrients out of the air, creates green plants, and that feeds the whole food system. And what we...
It doesn't just get thrown away in the wind. Oh, you too. So, I didn't listen to your talk, Vanessa, but I think that what you told people ahead of my presentation gives them a bit of an idea about how one can produce good medium using organic material from sources of waste, whether it's garden cuttings or kitchen waste, old newspapers. There are lots of things that you can use that will generate really nice composting. I've got a compost maker at home, and most people look at it and say, but that's not a compost maker. And I say, but this is the best compost maker you could possibly want. When we moved to the house that I'm in now, the previous owner had been a do-it-yourself mechanic, and he had dug a trench into the floor of the garage as an inspection pit, as they call it. So when he wanted to change his oil, he would simply climb into this big hole, long trench in the middle of the garage, underneath his car, and then he could tinker about and do repairs without having to lift the car up on a jack. And that's something that I'm not a mechanic. I do a little bit of mechanical work, basic maintenance, but I didn't see any need for this trench, and it looked quite dangerous, to have this. It's a nearly 2 meter deep trench underneath the car. So we decided to use it as a compost pit. And it's been the most amazing compost pit, because it's about 4 meters long, and it's about 1 meter wide, and it's 2 meters deep. And you can put as much material in there, and it just keeps going down. And eventually, this is now after 5 years, I can tell you, it's not ideal from the point of view of time and production, but we emptied it the other day, and we got out about 60 bags, big bags of compost. that completely broken down. It was like this lovely rich black soil. But you don't have to do that. You can make a really simple compost maker, and I'm probably repeating some of what you said, just out of any waste material. You could make a compost maker out of that old safe there if you really wanted to. But the point is that it's got to have drainage, it's got to be able to release moisture, and it's got to have a certain amount of warmth, but it mustn't be in blaring sun. It needs to be in a dappled shade situation. And in my situation, I've also introduced earthworms, which aren't the imported ones. I use the natural indigenous worms, and they are fantastic. And similarly, I recently harvested from my compost maker, which is an above ground, it's about that tall and it's about 1 meter wide squared, and it has holes at the bottom where there are little doors where you can slide the little door out and you can actually extract the compost from the bottom. Have you seen those? Trees that drop leaves, instead of letting the municipality come and pour the stuff into a packet and go and dump it in the waste disposal area, you can get somebody, or you can do it yourself, sweep the gutters, get all those leaves and pack them into your own compost maker as well.
You don't have to even do that. You go and collect all the blue bags that are around the
Well, if you want to do that, that's fine too. Don't get arrested though.
Why should you get arrested?
I don't know. You never know. I nearly got arrested the
You've
other
got
day
to try it.
for pruning a municipal tree on my verge. The point is that there are simple, really easy, basic things that you can do at home. It doesn't have to be the trench in the garage. It can actually just be a normal bucket with holes in the bottom. And you can make a certain amount of compost. Old garden pots like this red one here on the wall are potentially good compost makers, because they've got the drainage built in, they've got holes. You can keep putting kitchen waste in there and cover it with a tile or some kind of solid object to keep the light out, and it will function, providing there's an earthworm or two in there to breed. Eventually you will have compost in that pot. And often you have to actually remove the top section because there's more recent material that hasn't yet broken down in order to reach the bottom portion which has broken down. So yeah, I'm probably repeating what Vanessa said to some extent.
I just want to know, in terms of the nursery, because you mentioned the importance of cleanliness and pathogens.
Yeah.
Do you steam your compost or do something to inoculate it afterwards?
Yeah, you cover it with, it needs to go onto a fairly clean surface like this, and then you cover it with black plastic sheeting, which is not very sort of environmentally friendly, but you can use it. It lasts a long time, and pin it down with rocks, and then on a hot day, the sun. This is one thing you have to do in the sun. Is the black attracts heat, and the organic processes that happen within the compost create heat, and literally you put your arm inside this lot, you will burn your skin. It gets that hot.
And is that necessary for doing potting soil for nurseries? Because, or if you don't have a hot compost, will you get a lot of problems?
A lot of the time, nursery pathogens are introduced because you're bringing in soil from another nursery. So if it's your own compost and it hasn't been contaminated, then there's a good chance that it's fine. I've never had a problem at all, even with using fresh compost. But the point is that there are two things you're going to use compost for. One is for growing seedlings in seed trays, in which case it's really important that it is sterile, because little baby plants, when seeds germinate, are incredibly prone to disease. So you've probably seen what they call damping off. You know, you germinate your seeds, they all come up beautifully, and then one day you look at them and they're all lying flat, and they've turned a kind of a grey colour. That is a fungus, and the only way you can prevent that is by sterilising the soil. Economical nursery.
Sorry, all the tomatoes here.
Yeah, there you are.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about.
All tomatoes actually.
To counteract mildew.
Yeah.
Do you know that, or don't you know?
I've never tried bicarb.
Jane Griffiths in that book of hers tells you to use bicarb.
And then when the sun comes up in the morning, it's a gradual warming. I mean, if you put them out at 9 o'clock in the morning, you're asking for disaster. They're going to end up in little wilted matchsticks by the time the end of the afternoon comes. Unless you've got some major protection. But generally speaking, 24 hours is enough for a seedling to adapt to its new conditions, providing it's being watered.
Most of the time, the only markets we have access to are the retailers, and they make such a huge markup on everything, so it's very difficult to get anybody. A thing called the Open Food Network. Now this will be first of its kind, probably all over the world, in the sense that it'll link rural farmers in South Africa to the market with cutting out the middlemen, because it's the middlemen that actually make all the profit. So the farmer who has to plough the land and buy the seed and water it and look after it, harvest it and transport it, to get a tenth or a 15% of what the consumer ends up paying for it is actually a crime. It's totally not cool, and that happens in the commercial agriculture, but it even happens in the organic small scale sector, in fact even more so. But the global food, the Open Food Network is exactly what it means. It's open to any producer, whether you're making jams from home, or whether you're growing your tomatoes or cabbages or whatever, you can still plug into. That means there's the support at a global level and a movement at a global level, but it still can create regional platforms. So the networks are developed at a regional level, and then even further than that, there's localized. So find who's got carrots nearest to you. So, all these things that, we all talk about for so long, it feels like it's finally coming to fruition. You can know ahead of time or exactly what you want, but that has to happen organically. We can't be running around creating community work for people. The community we can just create the platform. So the ultimate goal I would see is where it's not just the Open Food Network, but an open value network, so that we can start to bring in other things like crafters and people who can make art and people who do construction, so that it's creating this, we call it a sort of a value accounting. And we tried to do a little experiment today with the voucher system, where you can bring your abundance and be given vouchers in return, and then you can swap those with other people's abundance. So that was the experiment today. It was semi-successful. I think it wasn't really aimed at anything other than just having fun with it and experimenting and seeing, how well it's taken on by a community. But also part of what today's exercise was is to kind of let you guys know that what we're wanting to do as a community, whether it's Glenwood or Durban or Westville, or I think it has to be quite localized at first, is to ultimately have our own local currency that ensures that trading stays at a local level, because whenever we're getting paid, the money's just going straight out to the big corporates, because as soon as we get paid our salary check or earn some money, it goes straight to the spas and to the big guys. And your neighbor who's battling right next door could have provided a very similar product, if not better, and he's not getting that. Hey?
Fresher.
Yeah, and fresher or whatever. So the ultimate goal with any local economy, and it's a movement happening all over. I mean, Kokstad is about to launch on the 18th of July, launching their local currency called K-Mali. The Brand was just launched in the Western Cape with 3 or 4 little towns. But I think, again, what they're realizing is that the hairdresser and the cabinet maker and the candlestick maker, the turnaround of those, not everyone needs a haircut, very often. So the usage of that money is going to be a lot slower. So I'm hoping that in this case, because of the Open Food Network and some of the things that we're initiating here, we can activate that a lot quicker because it involves food, and food is a daily consumable. So we'll see turnover of these systems much quicker, and we'll see some activity and hash out all the problems a lot quicker than what they can when they sort of just involving, people that need can provide a service, or the services that people that have signed on. So they've recognized, and one of the discussions we're having is how to activate the food system in those areas so that it does create the local economy to turn faster. So yeah, that's one of the main things. So really the open value network is ultimately would be the thing that networks the networks. So you've got all these different networks, and then the open value network would finally pull all these networks to make everything visible to each other. So that's the dream.
It needs to be like a peer recognition system, So in other words, you trust me and the seed that I'm going to give you. So I'm not going to pass on a seed from someone that I don't trust, And these kind of figuring out how to use a computer to do these things so it's fair, they can't be too much manipulated by human beings. This is part of that process.
Yeah, I think it's very much a peer review type system where obviously doesn't matter what industry it is, there is a trust involved. And I think as soon as you cut out, what's your name? Coral. As soon as you cut out the money-making corporate greed, and it's people to people, you'll find your trust will build, because it's your neighbor, it's your people around you, and people aren't interested in massive profits. They just want to feed their family. And once that trust is built, and the people that are using the system aren't going to want to poison their neighbors, so they won't use those things because they know that they can be found. Whereas these big corporates, you find, these nasty chemicals in your veggies. How can you go and shit on those people? You don't even know where to find them. They're sitting in some corporate office in God knows where. So, this way, that's the beauty about peer-to-peer trading, is that you eliminate all that greed and the need for all these chemicals, because everything's hand-grown, everything's handmade, because it's people production for people consumption. Because they know how to keep the system going is wars, poisoning GMOs, and all the systems that put the control systems on the people. So we need to take the control back and start trading amongst ourselves and growing our own food and producing everything that we need for each other, instead of producing it for somebody else for them only to sell it back to us.
Revolutionary. If a person like Baga can go in a park, a public square, and sell nothing, when we are not even selling, we're actually offering something substantial to people.